No,
Good afternoon,
no, no.
everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Faith, Lies, and Confusion. I'm Godless Reggie, the host. I got a few of my friends with me today. I got Afro Atheist with me today. How you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad to be here on
Me,
your very first show.
me too. Thank you for coming. I got
Thank
my
you.
friend in disbelief, Tia, here. How you doing?
It's all right.
And I got Jay. How you doing, bro?
What's up, brother? What's up? What's up? What's up?
Shit, chilling. Just here to spread some knowledge, get my show going. So I want to get right into it. Let's get on the topic of today. Give me 1 second. Is your religion racist? I want to start off with the curse of Ham. That's always my favorite subject, actually.
Ooh. Well, um, it just depends. I think can there be maybe some racism or played racism? Yes, definitely a lot of them. Just given the time, it may be more even a lot more. If I'm not going to go with racism, I would probably use classism in a lot of the religions, and so it doesn't surprise me. I would say, is there some in Judaism? Maybe more than likely.
Absolutely.
Is there some in Christianity? Uh, yes, there are some instances of it in Christianity as well. So I think it depends, and we have to accept. I'm saying as a whole that racism doesn't mean that just someone is prejudiced against, say, discriminative just against one race of or color of people. Like racism is racism, whether it's no matter who's doing prejudice, I should say, is no matter who's doing it. If you have like a dislike or a hate or that type, using your race or whatever case to put yourself or your class or your people, your group above somebody else, is racism no matter who's doing it. So yeah, I think they probably all pretty much can be guilty of it.
They are. So let me read some of it to you. In the book of Genesis, the curse of Ham is described as a curse which was imposed upon Ham's son Canaan by the patriarch Noah. It occurs in the text that Noah's drunkenness and is provoked by a shameful act that was perpetrated by Noah's son Ham, who was the nakedness of his father. Who saw the nakedness of his father. The exact nature of Ham's transgression and the reason Noah cursed Canaan when Ham had sinned had been debated for about 2,000 years. So the real issue is, to me, in later centuries, the narrative was interpreted by some Jews, Christians, and Muslims as an explanation for black skins, as well as a justification for enslavement of black people. Nevertheless, most Christians, Muslims, and Jews now disagree with such interpretations because the biblical text, Ham itself, is not cursed, and neither race nor skin color are ever mentioned. I think that was just a very passive way of trying to justify the situation because a lot of people believe in the curse of Ham. How y'all feel?
Yeah, it's a whole doctrine in some. Well, I think the Mormons, maybe not so much now, but once upon a time, this is how they assume that the black race was born. Right, I saw a video. I have got that video somewhere, Reggie. I'll find it. It's very very short about how they think. It's crazy. You should listen to this video. You will be very very angry when you hear what the Mormons taught about. They taught about, how we black people originated. And so I don't know how people can sit in these religions and accept this kind of rhetoric that we are from, the curse of Ham. And even if he was cursed, why should we suffer for something that we don't know anything about? I mean, it's
Exactly.
nothing to do with color, it's nothing to do with race. So how did anyone come up with the idea that black people were from this so-called curse of Ham? I mean, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy.
Tia?
Well, I'm just going to have to say that the Bible, in and of itself, was produced as a slave. So any text I think that we're taking from the Bible is going to show some form of slavery because that's what it was designed to do. It was
Exactly.
designed to be a book of submissiveness. It was designed to be a book to keep us in our place.
And it's working for the most part. My thing about it is, okay, if that's how people feel, that was back in the day. I have a problem with the people who it's affecting, number one, and number two, those same people accepting it. I'm not about to
Right.
accept that bull. Like, you got to be crazy to sit there and think that you're cursed to be black when we
Mm-hmm.
obviously know the reason why we're black is because it's melanin to protect us
And,
against the
and I'm
sun. You know what I'm saying?
and just even the Bible in and of itself, I mean, not just even black. I mean, the Bible in and of itself curses everybody's a slave unless you're a Jew. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Everybody's a slave. The Moabites, the Ammonites, the Mennonites, they're all fucking slave. Like nobody's safe. And I mean, there's scripture. You can go Old Testament and New Testament, and it talks about how you must submit to the slave master. That's what you are to do.
right. That
You
makes
know,
But
and they
but
say
then
go
but
ahead.
then how on earth can these books be called a holy book? Right?
correct.
How can
Yes,
this be called a holy text
yes,
when
ma'am.
you have these sorts of things in these books? These are the most unholiest of things, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how can you call the Bible a holy book? Make it make sense. What's holy about that? A book
Or
Yes, ma'am.
that's
moral.
got slavery, it's got, yeah, it's not a book of morals. And then someone will come along and say, oh, um, they've got objective morality, and we who don't believe, we've got no grounding for our, we've got no grounding for our morals. But this is
Yes,
the
ma'am.
morality you find in the book, right? Things like slavery. It's crazy. I'm sorry. I call the Bible the unholy Bible.
Absolutely.
Can
Yes,
wait?
ma'am.
Can I add something to what y'all said?
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
go on.
the Bibles are supposed. I mean, any scriptures, not the Bible, just any religion is supposed to still be. It's so. I want to give a little bit of pushback, but a pushback more along the realm of just the reality of the world. They're supposed to be give humans or us an explanation of things within our world for us to understand or interpret it, or take what's going on around us. So you're still talking about human behavior. So regardless, in time, period, no matter what faith, race, religion, what era in humanity, there's always been us finding some shape, form, or fashion of ways to try to divide ourselves or to find certain ways to put one group above another group, whether it was color, whether it was wealth, whether it was your religion, whether it was. So I'm not saying that what you guys are saying is wrong. What I'm saying is that it is also those are also reflections of what was going on in those time and places, and what were the different mechanisms that they used to separate or raise certain statuses or whatever case. And just, I guess, in a sense, documentation of also letting us know that this is how they hated or were divisive towards each other because of this in that era and time. So I'm not saying, I guess I should clarify saying that I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm like saying
Hmm.
let's also be cognizant of the fact that in human nature and behavior, we're always going to find something to be divisive about or to help us stand out.
Yes, sir.
I
I'm
mean,
glad.
you were
glad
you were
uh,
go on, Tia.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You were
What's that?
saying this was their reality, right? This was how they saw the world. I get it. There are all sorts of different myths. all
Yeah.
over the world. There are all sorts of different world views. There are all sorts of all people's ideas, how we came about. How did their reality become our reality?
Well, they just
Because
become the conquerors. They became the conquerors, the dominators. Like whoever, it's the winner gets to the winner goes the victories and spoils, so they get to impress upon everybody else when they come in and they conquer, or when they come in and they take over. They make everybody bend and pick on not only the negative things of whatever they believe in or the positive things of it, but just the way that they treat people, the way that they treat each other, their customs, their just their ignorances. I mean, hence why anytime anybody was conquered, especially back in those, the main things they got rid of was library. Libraries and other religious places were burnt and turned down because they wanted them to have to bend or be molded into what they believed in, how they carried themselves. I mean, that's just human history, how conquerors act. Not only did you lose your history, your education, or the way that your customs of how you treated each other or how you loved each other, you picked up their ignorance became part of your existence.
mm, 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 mm.
Okay.
In the
I want to.
Bible, in the Bible, what God commanded was that when his people, which were the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
they would go into the foreign places and they would conquer the enemy, that they would take over the land, correct? They will conquer everything. Nothing was to be saved or salvaged. Everything was to be destroyed, correct?
Correct.
So now you're promoting a God of what? War.
Right.
That's a God of war. That's not a God of love. So then you want to turn around and promote love? That's a God of war.
Right.
A
That's true.
God of
That's true.
spoil.
Let's not get that
And,
far though. Yeah,
mm,
that's true.
yeah,
What you said is 1,000%
yeah, and
true. Let's not.
That's just one thing he mentioned, though. The second thing he mentioned was human behavior. And you're talking about human behavior evolves over time. The Bible is not evolving. The Bible is ancient. It has not evolved with human beings now. It's ancient.
That's true.
And the Bible in and of itself is divisive. That's why just in Christianity, there are over 6,300 denominations in Christianity itself. It's divisive.
I ain't
But
know that.
wouldn't the 63 denominations kind of go more or less from the fact of, then that means that the Bible is changing because people's interpretation of the Bible is
That
changing.
means the
People,
Bible has no interpretation. That's what it means. It means that the Bible is so ambiguous. It's so uninterpretive. It means it's up for grabs.
Yes,
so then
yes, it
those
Anybody
is.
are, but
make it
those then that comes back to
any
human
any
behavior and nature. That comes back to
That's why
human
there can be so
behavior and nature.
many religions,
Right, and that's why one
because
can't say one is right and
you
one
can
can't say
make
the other's
one
wrong. You
person mean
can't.
one thing in one religion and make it
Right.
mean something and something else. It's divisive. Why would God do that, bro? Why?
Because he's
Why
the
would he
God of
do that?
confusion. That's why.
Why would he do that? He's all knowing, all powerful.
Because
Why would he do that?
those are things, those are because everything you're saying are the right questions to ask.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
just like, are we pointing?
I love it. No, you have to. You
Yeah,
have to
I'm
ask those
loving,
questions.
I'm
those are,
loving,
You have to
I'm
ask
loving
those
her
This,
questions.
passion.
this
I'm
is
loving
smart.
her passion. I'm
This is why I'm
loving
for
her.
her. This
Right
is
because
smart.
on.
That's why I brought her.
everything she's
Stay
saying
right
is the
on.
right
Mhm.
questions
She know.
to
Right on.
ask, to
Right
point
on.
out. The thing is that when we go to point the blame or we go to point the fingers, we have to make sure that we are not just ourselves acting out of emotion or frustration to the
Absolutely.
fact. And because is it the Bible or is it those so-called scholars, so-called interpreters, so-called political figures, even back then in certain groups in certain church bodies that came and took these words and manipulated these words to serve the purpose that they want? Because you still had human beings in damn near every, let's say you're a spiritual person, you believe this, you just don't like the politics of the church and everything you said kind of falls into the politics and the human behavior at all. So therefore, it still comes down to humans had their hand, and humans had their hand shaping it, manipulating the word, or taking the word, or even through translation for whatever reason, doctoring it to fit the motive, the narrative, or the the political standing they needed it to be. So
That's true.
do we have not so much a God issue, but a human issue?
Both, both. It's a Christian issue as well.
I mean,
Exactly.
across the board to any religion. Is it? Are we more pissed off because we're like, yo, a God would whatever case this compared to the fact that like, yo, y'all ignorant as hell or wrong as hell for sitting there like making it like a God did this when this is all the men, the doing, the dictating, and the rewriting or changing or interpreting of men
God,
Let's
with
why,
move.
why
power in
would
most
God,
cases.
Listen. We
bro?
could be
Why
on
would
this
God
topic
allow
for.
that?
Listen, we could be on
Why
this
would
same
God allow?
topic. We
It's
could be on this same
it's
topic
His
forever.
word.
Let's. Let's.
His word is infallible. It's infallible.
That's true.
According to what men say when they
No,
wanted it to be uncontested.
according to what Scripture says, bro.
That's what I'm that, but that's all men. It's all, God written not one
So
page.
you're saying that it's not true then,
No,
correct?
what I'm saying is
You're
that
saying that God fucked it up. I mean, you're saying men fucked it up, right?
yes. So that's what I'm sort of saying. Do we have a God issue or
Okay.
do we have a man issue?
It's a God issue
It's
because
a man.
God shouldn't allow that to happen.
But according to who?
God, because he's all powerful, bro.
But according to who?
Because he's
Let's
God.
listen. Let's
He's
move on to the
God.
next topic. Let's move on to the next topic. We can have
He's
this debate the
God.
whole show.
He's
So
But
I want to
God.
oh,
move
you're
on.
right.
Listen,
You're
listen,
right. I'm sorry. Go
listen,
ahead.
listen, listen. Let's move on
He's
to Pope.
God.
Let's move on to Pope Nicholas V. His role in chattel slavery. Romanus Pontifex Papal Bull of Pope Nicholas V from Portugal, January 8th, 1455, courtesy of the Arquilo National da Torre do Tombo, Lisbon, Portugal. The Papal Bull legally granted Portugal the right to enslave any and all people they encountered south of Cape Bajadour on the coast of Western Sahara, which literally started the transatlantic slave trade. So he's the pope that literally started it. A lot of times when I hear people talk about Christianity's role in slavery, blah 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 blah, they try to say, well, the Catholics. But the thing about Catholicism is every denomination of Christianity derives from Catholicism. You see what I'm saying? It's the purest fucking form of Christianity that it is. It's the first one. So I don't like when people try to wiggle around that. How you feel, Afro?
Um, I completely agree with you, but just seeing those dates there, seeing that date, 1455. 1455. That's when this whole thing of, well, I'm talking about the enslaving by the Catholic Church. That's when it started.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's just crazy, right? These people have been doing this for a long time. The
Mm-hmm.
Pope has apologized. I'm sorry. That apology just will not cut it from 1455. I don't think there's any apologies that the current Pope can make. This was unacceptable. This was unacceptable. These were supposed to be God's people, right? These were people that thought, okay, we were better than those other people there. It's our God given right to go and enslave people. I no, I'm sorry. Just seeing that date there, 1455.
That kind of goes along what I was telling you earlier, Afro, about remember I was talking to you about Jamaica and how slavery worked its way up and how the British was the last ones to catch on. That's what it means. Slavery worked its way up from South America, Central America, Caribbean. Then North America. You feel me? So that's just another way of showing it. How y'all feel?
Tia, you want to go?
You teaching me? I don't know nothing about this.
Um, so my answer to this is it's going to sound um not ignorant, but it's going to sound just realistic. Uh, what did you expect to happen? They're not the first that it happened to. They weren't the last. We continue to do these very same things, practice these very same things in today's society. It's never okay, but again. This is just human behavior and hiding behind at that time to get people to follow you, hiding behind a god or hiding behind your religion, and back then the thing that gave people power was the religious leaders. A lot of time dictated and controlled even the political leaders, and so are we surprised given the time, the era that this happened? No, it's been going on. Like it's happened across the board. That just was the reality of that time and way before that time.
I'm
It,
just surprised at how long ago this started.
yeah,
Look,
it's
1455.
yeah, but slavery is what but BCE before Christ. Like it's
Wow.
so when you look at it, it's that again, these are human behaviors. Humans have been enslaving humans for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Before any god, the first god somebody thought of at some point in time, people were having fights and wars and enslaving each other and being brutal to each other and killing each other. These are all they do now is they just hide behind religious figures to justify their acts of terrorism, to justify their acts and reasons that they want to come take over. God gave me this. God told me to do this. And so, I mean, it's not to be in not I mean insensitive, but I look at this and besides the only thing that makes this stand out is the fact that we put a pope in front of it. But given the time and the era it is, that should not surprise us. Look at the powers that the Pope had. Look at all the crusades that were done by both sides. Look at thing, and I wanted to add to something to Reggie. Reggie said that when it comes to the order, Catholicism wasn't the first, but it's just when the Romans came into power and they adopted Christianity, they were the most biggest organized and had the biggest stick at that time to go and kind of dictate things. But Judaism is probably, when it comes to surrounding somewhere within that Christian faith, I want to say Judaism is older. Judaism is older than Catholicism.
Judaism is not the same as Christianity.
But they
People that
all
are
but all
yeah, but
remember Jesus was Jewish, and then it
yes,
was a
yes, but
split off, and Christians didn't even be created, and because it used to be a negative derogative term. All they were just followers. Christians are nothing but followers of Jesus, and it started after from that point and on where they started doing that. But Judaism goes. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying to you is Judaism and Christianity are not the same. Listen, no person of the Judaism faith believes anything New Testament on. They don't believe it. Now, you are correct in saying that Judaism is older. Yes, and you are correct in saying that Christianity is a copy of it, but it's not the same. And I'm gonna teach you something I know that you don't know.
No, I know I'm
Hold,
agreeing
hold
with
on.
you on that. I'm not
Right,
disagreeing. What I'm saying is
right.
that it's still whether they want Jewish want to admit it or not. If your most popular figure in belief and most popular biggest Jewish person is Jesus, who they refuse to acknowledge or whatever case as God, but their biggest leader, the most important leader, is therefore from them who he never denounced that he was a Jewish, and he starts and it
But
breaks off. That's
but you
all
wrong though.
political talk.
But you
No,
wrong though. You
I
wrong.
don't
When
think
you
that
say
works.
that he's
But
their leader, he's not their leader. They don't believe in. Listen, Jews think that you or whoever is a Christian and whoever is a Muslim is their slave, bro. Also,
yeah, I don't think that works.
another thing too. Jewish people, people of the Judaist belief, they don't believe in hell or none of that. It's not the
You
same.
know, they don't
It's
really believe
different.
Jesus Christ is a Jew, really.
No,
Can
they don't
I can
believe
I
he.
read can I read something
Yeah,
to you?
yeah.
Um and Reggie, you know that book that I got yesterday, right? The Talmud, right?
Hmm.
This is it's the Talmud. It's called the Talmud, a selection, right? So here
Hmm. I
in
know
the
what it is.
introduction talks about the Talmud and Christianity, right? Christians were
Hmm.
present in growing numbers in both Palestine and Babylonia during the formative period of rabbinic Judaism. Their writings contained interparate and vitriolic attacks on Jews and Judaism, among the most notorious of which are the homilies of John Chrysostom. Modern printed editions of the Talmud has been subjected to Christian censorship, and they lack obvious references to Christianity. Uncensored manuscripts preserve a number of statements that appear to refer to Jesus, though not always by name. An example in this volume is the Sanhedrin. He is said, for instance, to have been conceived illegitimately, to have defied his rabbinic teacher, and to have practiced sorcery. Peter Schaeffer argues that these mainly Babylonian stories about Jesus and his family are they're deliberate and highly sophisticated counter narratives to the stories about Jesus' life and death in the Gospels. Narratives that presuppose a detailed knowledge of the New Testament, in particular of Gospel of John. There is no explicit discussion of Christian theology and its claims for Jesus, though such matters must have been debated in Palestine, in towns such as Caesarea and Sepphoris, where Jews and Christians lived in close proximity. There are occasional references to Christian practice, right? So basically, what this is saying is it's not the same, and the Christians even try to censor the Talmud and all these other things, right? Talking about it being subjected to the Talmud being subjected to Christian censorship. They've got a different narrative than what the Christians have. So
Yes, they do.
about it being the same,
No,
Yes.
when we say it doesn't have to be the same to come or derive for something.
right,
It's the
That's what
remix.
I'm saying. It's derived from it. If the
Yes.
Christians follow a person who was a Jew, their whole thing, their whole following, their whole belief comes from a man who was Jewish, and his
I mean,
teachings and everything is to a thing. Now, what the Jewish faith wanted to do, how they chose to separate and betray Jesus and all the other stuff goes into a whole nother thing. So when we're talking about basically the the sub platforms and everything deriving from here at one point, because if you look at the Catholicism and Christianity, you're gonna be like, whoa, there's a whole bunch of differences, but we all know that it's still all they're all still break offs, all for the same tree. They all still arrive
yes.
around the
You,
same God. It's just
listen.
interpretation in history in there to make them think different.
In a way, you're right, but in a way, you're completely wrong. They all believe. They all are Abrahamic faiths. So in that sense, you are 100% correct. And they all Christianity and Islam are remixes of Judaism. You're right on that part, but their direction at that point goes different. So think about this, Jamal. I know you never thought about this, right? But are you telling me that it's and I'm not trying to side with nobody here because I don't believe none of it. But are you telling me that you think that it's the Jewish people's fault and they're the one who is responsible for Jesus' death, right? And the Romans the ones that did it.
I'm what
It's
I'm
the
telling you,
Romans who did it.
what I'm telling you is that if we're going to we're going all this is based off of stories passed down and told, and then some of it is documented history and some of it isn't. What I'm telling you is that I personally don't care who's right or wrong in that situation, because it's not about, to me, it's not about the right or wrong. It's just about the details of the way the story is told.
Right, but I just
Okay,
want you.
so
I just want you to think about that because when you say that, right? What you said, I know you don't know this, but that's anti-Semitic. You know why it's anti-Semitic? Because in the way you line on them.
in a
Think
way, I'm
about
lying on it.
yes,
Is there's not in history that says that they betrayed him? Some Jewish people
no,
betrayed him.
but look though. Think about what you but think about what you're saying. Did they do? Did are they the ones that killed them?
Man, you know what? It's not anti-Semitic, and if they feel that way, I don't give a fuck. Because at
It
this point,
is. I'm telling you.
if one person or one group of people does something bad, does that mean that every black person or every person who's a Christian is anti whatever the case? That's not the
No,
case.
no.
But
What I'm saying is, you got to put it on the Romans. They the ones that did it. You got to blame the person who did it in that story.
he got snitched on by his own people to the Romans.
But the Romans is the ones who did it. You
But the
can't.
Jewish is who snitched on him to get him put in that situation. So they
Did
played a part. Whether not every freaking Jewish person did it.
It's gone for a small fee.
You can't right. You can't blame the person who. Okay, I'm gonna give you another scenario that don't got nothing to do with
That's
this.
the setup.
Listen, think about this story too. Okay, think about the Adam and Eve story, and we're getting way off topic here. Think about the Adam and Eve story. How the fuck is that Eve's fault? Explain it to me. Did God tell her any motherfucking thing? No, no, He didn't tell her shit. But you're under the illusion that it's her fault that she convinced him to do it. God told Adam directly, bruh, don't do it.
But
Don't
it's all still God's fault.
It's not Eve's
Exactly.
fault.
It is God's
It's not
fault.
Eve's.
Oh
Yes,
yes. Yeah, but it is God's fault. Yes. God's fault.
right,
Yes.
right. It is God's fault. But what I'm saying is, you see how the story has always been played to you, like Eve is the one that's wrong in that situation. God
Yeah.
didn't tell her shit. My point is, I'm trying to point something
God
out to
God
you.
didn't tell anyone shit. God
Listen,
didn't
listen.
say nothing to no one.
We're trying
But
to make
Make make make make believe.
issues with in the first
It's
Facts.
place.
all make believe.
God made the serpent, bro.
Yeah,
It's all
right.
make
God
I
made the
get
believe.
that part.
serpent.
But
I
what I'm
think
saying is the deflection part you missing. We didn't deflected it on
Okay,
the
but
damn
yes,
we're
Jews,
we
and they
did.
ain't the one that killed them.
There
what
ain't no
we're doing
God,
is,
but if we're gonna believe theology,
yeah,
he made the serpent.
yeah. So
Right.
Yeah, but what I'm
doing
saying is, it's not the Jews'
what
fault
you're
in that
doing
situation.
is, and if somebody wants to feel this anti-Semitic, okay, whatever case,
It
write me an
is.
email and comment. What we're doing is, it's no different than if me and you, I ride with you, but you start hanging with these other dudes, but we still hang out and stuff like that. But I get pissed off, like, you know what? Nah, fuck this. And then I go to the government, and then I tell the government on you, and then they use information I gave them to go set you up and sit there
Jamar,
and book you, bro. I still played a
Jamar,
part in you going down.
Jamar. You know what they said though? When you're saying they snitched on him, you know what they did? They told you that he wasn't the fucking Messiah, and they still saying it.
It doesn't matter. They snitched on him. So how is it anti-Semitic?
How are
He
they
was
at fault? Because
Jewish. Well, he was a Jew. He
Yeah,
there's
was
nothing.
a Jew. Why
they
would
told on
anyway?
their
I
own
don't.
homie.
I. Mm.
All right, I'm about to move to the next topic. Ephesians 6:5-9. Let me pull that up.
Late on us. Ephesians 6. Ugh.
Yeah, talk about slaves being submissive and obedient,
More sign,
right?
more sign of the
Slaves
times.
obey your master.
More sign of the times, because
Slaves.
slavery
I'm
was.
about to read it. Hold on. Slaves, obey your earthly master with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whether they are free or slave. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him. And that's some bullshit. That's another uh, few verses that pretty much put us into captivity. I'm pretty sure that was the highlight of the slave
That's
Bible.
God condoning slavery.
It is 100%
Yeah,
Not
this is.
condoning it, commanding it.
and regulating
Mm.
it.
Commandment.
It
Someone,
is.
someone asked a question. uh, on her TikTok, and I thought, interesting. I'm actually interviewing this person later on today. Um, she asked the question: so if a slave and a slave master both pray to the same God, who is God? Who is God going to listen to, or whose prayers are going to be answered? So slave master and slave both pray to the same God. Whose prayer will God be listening
That's a
to?
great
Which one?
question.
It is a great question.
I'm only gonna do one more on Christianity after this one, so we can get some Islam in. But this next one, it's a good one. How you feel about
Oh gosh.
that last few verses I read, Jay?
You say what? I didn't hear what
I
you
said, how
said.
you feel about them last few verses I just read to you, Jay?
Sure, said, bring them to the tree instruction more slaves obey your masters of fear.
But
Um,
this is
just leaving off. I mean, if we're still speaking on the fact of the whole slavery thing, or and going on from that, then my whole thought is that it just was a sign of time, and enslaving people was again more about your standing in society, your wealth, and just thing more so than race back then. It was heavily a lot of other things factored into it besides race. So uh, again,
no,
slavery was going on since before forever.
sorry. There's something I've just noticed there. Here in the UK, we call it a double whammy, right? A double whammy. And I just spotted it in verse 9. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours. So, for the slave, not only do they have a master here on the earth, they also have a master up above. It's like the slave is fucked either way.
Yes, ma'am.
In heaven and
Facts.
on earth, you
Would you
are
would you call
fucked.
that the double whammy? Would you call that the double
Man,
whammy?
it's a
I can't break
double whammy. It's a double whammy. It
Like
is,
Well,
a
it's saying
look,
everybody is a slave. It's saying that
no,
everybody's a slave
no,
in heaven.
but then the slave master, at least he's the slave master here, but he gets to answer to his slave master. But for the slave, you it's like anywhere you go,
Gotta answer to
you're a
everybody.
slave.
You gotta answer to
Man,
everybody.
no thanks.
right. Oh
Right.
man,
No
that's,
thanks. No thank you.
No thanks.
I'm
Mm-mm.
gonna I'm gonna get to this next one quick. It's a Song of Solomon.
Oh gosh, not the
This,
Song
yeah,
of
I think
Solomon, not that Song of Solomon. Okay, let
yeah,
me
yes.
ask Jay a very quick question.
Yes.
Jay, and I know you might find some value in these books, right? So the wisest man in this book um had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Jay, if you could be in Solomon's shoes, do you think you could manage 700 wives and 300 concubines? What do you think?
Well, I can't
Right.
manage.
Jay,
I can't.
think about it. Jay,
I
think
can't
about
manage.
it.
I can't manage
Jay,
one.
think about it. 700 women, 700 wives, 300 concubines. You get to play with them whenever you want. Just look, just they're all yours.
I can't. I couldn't.
Okay.
Not
Me
700.
neither.
Not 700. But you know,
Okay.
Let me read this to you. Take me away with
700.
you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine. You right they are to adore you. Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, because I am darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of their vineyards, my own vineyards to get neglect. Tell me,
I had
you
neglect.
whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman besides the flocks of your friends? If you do not know, most beautiful of women follow the tracks of the sheep and graze their young goats by the tents of the shepherd. So basically, what she's saying is she's telling him don't stare at her because she's fucking black. And she's
She
also
been,
telling you that her parents made her fucking take care of the vineyards or gardens or whatever the fuck. And when her shit was fucked up, like she had to basically she's like Cinderella pretty much because she's black. Is what she's saying to you, and she's apologizing for it. It's disgusting to me.
it is disgusting. It is. And here I see a woman who is uh craving the attention of this man at her own detriment. At her own, this is killing you, woman. This thing is killing you, but you're still sticking it out. You're still not me.
Yeah, I don't get
Not
it.
me.
How you feel, Tia?
Saying,
All right, I'm gonna get off Christians for a little while and switch it to Islam, my
Oh
new
gosh.
favorite topic.
Oh
Mm.
gosh.
I
Not the
wish I had time
Jesus.
to talk. I wish I had time to talk about the gens today. I really do. The gens are my real favorite. I swear. I actually want to be a gen. No lie.
A toilet gin?
the
No,
Audrey
not the
Blackman.
toilet gen and not the no and
Why
not the
not?
one when you go
Why
to
not the
sleep.
toilet gin? Come on,
No,
God. Come on,
no,
Reggie. Come on, Reggie. Why not the toilet gin?
that, that's a little
That's the
bit
best one. It's the
that's a little bit
best
too
one. You
freaky
get
for
to
me.
you get to enter into the Muslim. You get to find your way up there.
Uh, no. Okay. So in the Sahih al Bukhari, Volume 1, number
Al Bukhari.
62, and in Volume 9, Muhammad refers to blacks as raisin heads. So, you want me to pull up the exact verse and read it?
I know what this is about. Um,
You,
apparently he was talking to his people, right? Back in those days, they didn't like black people. They didn't like they referred to them, they had all these derogatory terms they would call these people. And he was trying to say to his people that, look, because with Muslims, when they are the majority, it's their rules. It's their rules and nothing else, right? But when they are not the majority and it's some other person ruling, now he's trying to tell them that if the ruler is of uh, dark, he's black, whatever you think of him, whether he has a raisin head, right? They would call them raisin heads, black people, raisin heads. And so it says whether he's black or with raisin head, still go ahead and um, honor him and respect him, right? Until such a time when you're the majority, right? But while you are the minority, still go ahead and respect the raisin head. So Muslims will make you think that this is a good thing. Muhammad is saying, even though he is a raisin head, still go ahead and respect the man. But no, it's derogatory. He could call him anything, but not a raisin head.
It's the even though for me.
It is the
mm-hmm.
even though.
It's the
Mm.
even though for me.
um, just because I don't know, like, uh, I don't get it. How I get what this is. I get what the fuss is about, and yes, it's all ignorance, but hell, like you have Christian apostles, black, white, or whatever case, who are racist and still whatever case, not apostles, but preachers, so forth, and all these kind of religious leaders in the world who are still racist across the boards in their own way, shape, form, or fashion. Um, hell, you got even Muslim, black Muslim leaders out there who just hate white people and come up with all kind of names for them. None of this is a surprise, given even if it's back then. Hell, even to the day today, people in the Middle East are still racist or prejudiced towards certain Africans from different places over there, and get along with certain other ones, but will still have hell. Certain Africans from different part of Africa, Nigerians or Ethiopians or whoever case, all got little racist and negative things they say. It's huge. This is all just showcasing and highlighting that human ignorance and prejudice and racism has been going on forever, and it didn't stop back then, even if these people, quote unquote, were living in the days of the prophets. The ignorance
And
was still going on.
it still continues, even in Islam, right? Reggie, I'll send you a couple of videos on TikTok. Just type racism in Islam, right? You find the people from the Arabs, they think they're up there, right? They're it's theirs, it's their religion, it's their prophet, and everyone else is a stranger. Everyone else, no. In fact, they wouldn't even let a black Muslim marry one of theirs, right? It's so it is a problem now in Nigeria, right? Because Nigeria is predominantly Christian or Muslim. So in Nigeria, so we've got up north. Up north is majorly Muslim, and down south is majorly Christian, right? But we still have Muslims down south as well. The Muslims up north think that they have the 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 they're more Arab. They've got the truer version. They're more Arab than the people down south. And so in Nigeria, you have Muslims discriminating against them down south because we look more like the Arabs than you do. It's crazy. Hmm.
It's
So
human behavior.
Jay, so
Very true.
Jay,
Mhm.
Jay, are you saying that this type of racism exists with or without religion? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it just basically I'm saying yes that
I got
religion, racism carries over into every form or aspect
feel it.
of our lives. You know,
I
if
feel
you're
it.
racist, you're not just like yo racist, except when we
It'll
show
go
up.
into your job. It'll go into your
Yeah,
politics, to your religion. No, I feel it.
yeah. So it's
I,
just I feel like we folk, and I'm new to the group and the discussion with y'all, but I feel like we'll keep getting lost if we only keep looking at the
Books.
spiritual the spin. Oh no, the books, but books are written by somebody. Books are just written by somebody with a agenda,
Theory.
a theory, an agenda in mind, right? To go ahead and express. So, but we'll keep getting lost because we can't look at the spiritual aspect of it first. The way
now,
you get to the spiritual aspect is you got to break down the human behavior aspect of it first. That allows you to look into, that allows you to understand. Okay, this is why this is like that. I'm sure if we go look back at that time, there were, and outside of just that, but that at that time we probably see tons of ignorant tropes and just bullshit that they were saying. Excuse my language. Back to the point
I
of time.
definitely can understand where Jay's coming from because you take a group of people who weren't religious at one time that already had a racial bias, and then they became a religious entity. They're just going to take that religious bias with them
Yeah,
and just expound on it.
it
They're
I
carries on.
get,
naturally
Yeah,
they're naturally
I get
racist,
it.
and no
I get it.
religion, no Abrahamic religion has anything to do with black people, and that's the real problem for real, for real.
but if it wasn't written for us by us, then you're more than likely probably going to end up with that because whoever's the people
Exactly.
that's yeah. So it's it's just it's again it's just it just
You didn't
showcases
have to
the thought
I'm
become
going
process.
racist
to
to join the religion. You were already like that before
Yeah,
you
hate
became
was
that.
already there
I
for
get
you.
it, Jay.
I'm
I
going
get
to disagree. I'm going to disagree with Jay. on the subject of spirituality, because spirituality is one sure way to mess with people's minds and mess with people's heads. The idea that, okay, um we can get some kind of let's think about the spirituality aspect of things. What are we talking about when we talk about spirituality? That's also bullshit. That is also bullshit, because spirituality is how we got here to begin with. The idea that there are things out there that we can't explain, the idea that there must be something, we can't be here alone. There has to be something controlling this. And so that's what makes people go looking for things that are not out there, right? They give it all sorts of different names. God, Jesus, Yahweh, all sorts of the different names, because it's this spirituality factor, right? When we're talking about spirituality, what exactly are you talking about? Can we
Talking to
quantify
yourself.
it? Can we measure it? Can we can we can we put it in a category? Right? Is there um a guideline? Is that something that can tell us what we're talking about when we're talking spirituality? Every person that you meet that talk about spirituality, when you talk to someone and they say they're spiritual, you can never get two spiritual people telling you they agree on the same things. It's always something different, right? One person is they get stones and say like something to the stones. Another person, they do animal sacrifice. So you see, spirituality, that's another subject, Reggie, I think that we need to also talk about, right?
Yeah,
I
we can
do
do an
that
episode
quite
on that.
often, right?
We can do a whole
Spirituality,
episode on that.
because
Well,
a
well,
lot
pull up
of
the
people
definition
a,
because
a
that
lot
helps
of
us.
a lot of people are leaving religion and moving the spiritual route.
Yes.
In my opinion, frying pan to fire.
Let's move on, because that's another one that can go on and on and on and on. This is one I definitely want to read to y'all. Now, I heard the apostle say, let me pull this back up for you. Pull this back up. Stop. Present. Yeah, you got to see this one.
And Jay, if you're spiritual, this isn't about you, right?
No,
This
no,
isn't
no, no.
about you. Because
I
from
can
the
agree with what you're saying. I agree
yeah,
wholeheartedly. That's why I said if we keep, because again, we're taking what other people, what it means to them. And what I'm saying is
okay,
if we focus on
mhm,
the actual human behavior
okay,
of it, it explains more to us to understand how even people arrive at these places, so-called spiritually or religion, or why they fall into these things, even religious wise, or whatever the case they want to
okay,
choose to fall with. Everything you said is right. And so I'm agreeing with you, but saying that
hmm
we'll get lost focusing on, because again, everything you said about their perception or idea of spirituality or religion compared to where it's easy to understand things when we take a step back and look at the human behavior and aspect, i.e., like you said, since beginning we have been searching for a higher power, a
mm,
meaning, something to believe in, something. And so looking at that, you say, okay, what was the human behavior, i.e., the perfect person in history to try to understand this, that makes us give a broader perspective of how they probably did it back then and how we do it today, is Hitler. Hitler was the perfect person because the way he manipulated and the way he took something from a spirit to be quote unquote doing God's work and attacking
mm-mm,
a certain people, but he had a bigger agenda in play. He had a bigger goal and role in play. But if we look at it, how could he convince a whole bunch of Germans to look at like the Jewish were bad? I'm going to sound anti-Semitic, but and I'm not, but it's not like the Jewish people were innocent and just like the nicest people to the German people back then. There was a boost and incentive and things that happened that got the German people to believe that these people were greedy, taking all the resources or holding them down. So they felt at some point in time that they were victims. Doesn't mean
mm,
that all Jewish people, but those who had power and those who were manipulating, controlling things, made a lot of these people feel that way to first support this man. And once he accomplished the first mission, they was like, all right, we got what we wanted, but he kept going. And then a lot of them started being like, okay, this is too much. Now this is not about God. This is not about you even fighting for our resources and more for us to have. This is more about you wanting more power. But just look, when I say he's a perfect case study, because it's just the way he used religion and other factors to help people buy into something.
Mm.
All right, let's not get off too off track because we're getting back to Christianity now, and I want to run through these because I know
No, but
Afro
Reggie,
got other shit to do.
but Reggie, this is good. This is good because now these are two topics that we need to talk about, right? These
Hmm.
these are bringing up future shows, right, for
Yes,
you. And
yes.
I'm loving this. Just sign me up, right? Spirituality. When Tia's come to share her story, sign me up. I want to be there for those shows.
And to like just real quick, just to piggyback off of what Jay was just saying, aren't they isn't that kind of same thing they're doing with this Trump era right now? Aren't
That's
they
Yes,
exactly what he's
the
doing.
thing
yes,
like
that's exactly what they're
Oof,
doing. Yeah.
exactly right?
ooh.
Like everybody's always looking for this.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I don't know. They're always looking for this.
I have to. Trump knew I have to tell
Always looking
white
for this.
Americans
I
that
don't
they
know.
are being replaced. That they are. What's the word I'm looking for? Not. It's they are being like not prioritized. That they are
It's called
victims.
propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda. But he has
Yes,
to
it is.
sell them that they're being disenfranchised. That their opportunities are taken away from them. That they're victims. He has to create a victimhood. And when you
But
create,
even more than that, it's almost like people are mesmerized. Like people are being mesmerized, like hypnotized, mesmerized, like zombie type behavior.
behavior, we always want to believe in something that's going to.
Yeah, right. No,
Black
right.
people, we suffer for. It's easy to walk around feeling like you don't have shit. Most majority of the shit you don't have is because of somebody else or some corrupt system.
All right, so let me get back to this Islam. So I heard now this is Muhammad, right?
Yeah.
I heard the apostle say, "Whoever wants to see Satan should look at Nabtal. He's a black man with long flowing hair, inflamed eyes, and dark, ruddy cheeks. Allah sent down concerning him. To those who annoy the prophet, there is a painful doom." Gabriel came to Muhammad and said, "If a black man comes to you, his heart is more gross than a donkey's." Now, listen, the last part of that is self explanatory. But to put in context of what they're saying, what uh, the book is trying to explain to you is they're trying to figure out what the devil actually looks like, right? So, what they're saying is he's a black man with long flowing hair.
This
He's saying the
this
devil's
is the
black.
only description there ever was or is. I've never heard this or read this ever. This is the only description there's ever been.
And this is out of the Prophet Muhammad's mouth, allegedly, because I don't believe he actually existed. And that's Ishak 2:43. I know how you feel about it, Afro.
Not on here.
Pure madness.
So, also, I had glazed over something like because a lot of people don't realize the importance and the role that the Arabs played in the slave. They actually they were involved in two different slave trades. They had their own, and they also assisted in chattel slavery over here too. And the way that they assisted in it is by telling them the routes where to find the actual Africans, because in most of North Africa, the Sahara Desert, that it's the desert. There's not really people there all like that, especially at those times. So the Arabs kind of showed them where it was at. And they also believe in the next thing I'm going to read you, the same thing with Christianity, because again, they're both just remixes of Judaism. But the curse of Ham, Africans, Ham, begot all those who are black and curly hair, while Japheth, Turks, begot all those who are full faced with small eyes, and Shem, Arabs, begot everyone who is handsome of face with beautiful hair. Noah prayed that the hair of Ham's descendants would not grow beyond their ears, and that whenever his descendants met Shem, the latter would enslave them. I just don't understand how any black person could believe this shit. How can you worship that? And this is what they
I know
think
how.
about you.
I know how, Reggie. I know how. When you sign on to Islam, they sell you all the good bits. Many, I can guarantee you, Reggie, when next you speak to a Muslim who's black, ask them about these, right? What you've put up here, and see they tell you that they have no clue this even exists. They would
Right.
tell you that no,
Hmm.
this does not exist in Islam. Because this is not what they teach them. All they do is recite the Quran, right? They
Hmm.
recite, and most of these, Ishaq is not the Quran. Bukhari is not the Quran. Let's see, yeah, Tabari, that's not the Quran. These are hadith. These are the other sources. These are the other parts that aren't in the Quran. So it's easy for a Muslim to
To
look
cherry
at you
pick.
and say, no, this isn't Islam. This is not found in the book. Only what's found in the book is Islam. But guess what? The same people pray 5 times a day. The 5 times prayer is not in the Quran. It's in a hadith.
Wow.
Apparently, apparently, when the Prophet first got the first messages, they would pray almost 50 times a day, just keep on praying. And so he received a message and he had to, I think he went to the seventh heaven on that donkey, Reggie. So on his on his way back, he met, I think it was it Moses or someone? He met one of these people, and that one says, "Oh, how many times did Allah tell you you should pray?" Oh, he told us to pray 40 times now. Says, "You know you can go back and tell him to cut down those prayers, right?" Oh, okay. I didn't know I could do that. And then he goes back and Allah says, "Okay, cut it down." He comes back down, and on his way down, he meets the same person. I think it's Moses or Aaron. It's one of those people. That one says, how much prayers do you have now? Oh, he's cut it down to 40. Go back and have him, And he kept going back and forth
On that
until
donkey.
those prayers, those prayers were cut down to five. So now that's where you get the five daily prayers that the Muslims pray. It is not in the Quran. So when they want to tell you, oh, it's not found in the Quran, it's not found, there's several rituals that they take part in that's not found in the Quran. So
Yeah, they cherry picking. I know.
they do.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. So it's your folly to fight the apostle, for Allah's army is bound to disgrace you. We brought them to the pit. Hell
Come
was
on,
their meeting
Reggie.
place. We connected them there, black slaves, men of no descent.
Come on, Reggie. Come on, man.
Pathetic.
It's
The
just
black
so frustrating.
Right. The black troops and slaves of the Meccans cry out, and the Muslims reply, Allah, destroy your sight, you impetuous rascals.
Mm-mm.
Then the prophet said, let the Negro slave of Dinar perish, and if he is pierced with a thorn, let him not find anyone to take out for him. If he, the black slave, asks for anything, it shall not be granted. And if he needs intersection to get into paradise, his intercession will be denied.
Oh, and this isn't everything. Reggie, do you know about the young black slave? The young black girl slave that
Which
oh, I'll send it to you. Only found out about 2 weeks ago. Someone sent it to me.
the pug nose slave girl.
No,
We're talking about that because I
no,
glazed over that one.
no. The slave girl who when Muhammad went on one of his fighting expeditions or whatever he thought, I don't know what he was doing. He came back and this slave girl went to him. The black slave girl went to him and said, I have vowed that if you return, I'm going to beat my tambourine, right?
Hmm.
And because you returned, can I please beat the tambourine? His response to her was, well, if you've made the vow, you might as well. If you really need to, you might as well. So there wasn't a response like, yes, go ahead and do it. It was more of, okay, if you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. So anyway, she starts beating her tambourine, and one of his the people who go with him, one of them comes in the room, she continues beating it. The second one comes in, she continues beating it. Then Umar comes in the room. As soon as Umar comes in the room, she quickly grabs her tambourine, hides it under her bottom, right, and stops beating. And Muhammad responds. Muhammad says to Umar, the devil has stopped beating the tambourine. The devil is afraid of you. Hence why the it has stopped the beating of the. Mm,
Pathetic.
it is
Also,
pathetic.
another one that I had glazed over is Hadith Volume 9, 162 and 163. Muhammad warned that he dreams of black women. That means that disease was coming forth.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, he had a
Pathetic.
dream. He had a dream. He saw this woman in his dream, her hair all a mess, right? That's an African woman hair, African women's kind of hair, but not made or anything. The hair was all in a mess.
Hmm.
And he said it reminded him of a disease that was coming. One of his wives, they reckon she was black, maybe one or two. But the wearing of the veil, the hijab, and
Hmm.
that what they wear. uh, Oh goodness,
Can I ask
it
y'all a question?
was. Yeah, go on, go on.
Um, I want to add, I guess, food for thought, a way of not to excuse, but to understand uh, all this that we're going over. Is, let's say that this wasn't then. This, the prophets and all that stuff was now today. Do you think that their views of blacks would be any better? Or do you think it'd be less racism as these people are going along and creating these texts and these scriptures and these beliefs and
No,
these things? Do you think it would be any different?
no,
So,
they're just
just,
as racist now as they was then.
well,
Probably.
people are just as racist now as they are then.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, to see this is like, it's disheartening. It's, but it's not like we haven't seen this today. It's not like we don't see this or more, see as just as much in Christianity, or I don't
Fact.
know per
That's
se
a
for
fact.
Judaism. So I just look at all this as just documentation
Mm,
of human behavior, but from the religious aspect of how it looked in the religious circles, because it wasn't just happening in those religious circles. The way they talk, like we discussed before, they were talking like this outside of mass or outside of when they go to do their prayer or wherever they were at in their temples, wherever the case. Like, they felt the ignorance, the racism, the slave mentality, the slave owner mentality. You still had fucking coons and people who wanted to be like them so bad, and all these other different things. Like, it's just this human behavior has just continued. It's just that for us, we go back and like, oh my gosh, they were this person who's supposed to be the prophet and all holier than thou, or whatever case that these people made out to be. He was a racist too. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus might have been didn't like certain people, or whatever the case. Like, if they could, but they would never. If he was, they would go out of their way to hide it. But I'm not.
He was racist.
yeah, he was racist,
He was. He
absolutely.
told. He told this girl he wouldn't give it to her because she's a dog.
No, no, not just that. He said to the same woman, I only came for the lost sheep of my father's house. He only came for a select few people. But can I say something to what Jay was saying? Jay, in this instance, this is different, right? Because you're saying, okay, either way, still racism. They would still be racist. But when it is a religious text, when we are talking about, this is a man that is revered by millions and millions of people. He can do no wrong. Reggie, we've spoken to people. They've been told that this man slept with a 6-year old, and I'm telling
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
they will back him up.
Yes,
He
Jamar.
had the
Listen.
right to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So this is different because for some people, when it comes to religion, they think that this is direct from God, right? So if humans are going to be just humans, right, without any God element, I can understand that. I can say yes. But these people think that this person doing all of this, this is direct from God. He is look, he is he's got the ultimate spot in heaven. He is the be all and end all when it comes to that religion. And so if he can carry on like this, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. What kind of person is this? Right? You can't be from God and then be as human as we are. How are you from God and you're marrying a 6-year old? Come on, make it make sense.
And
So
it's not
it's
going to make sense because it's not designed to make sense. Because look at look
oh
at look at how y'all break down and are calling out all the fallacies and all the wrong things and all the lies and all the BS and all the missteps and the misquotes and the reconstruction. Look how you guys have been spent time on platforms talking about all the BS of it. Why would Muhammad or his story or his teachings or the view of who he is be any different? Look at today how they treat and look at Donald Trump. You don't think people could have just, and we got way more better ways to see the evidence because we got the internet. But look at how humans are and how they subvert and how they just want to believe what they want to believe, and we ignore what we want to ignore. There's no way in the 70s, in the 80s, Donald Trump would have been able to get away with grab her by the or half the stuff that he's done or trying to steal the election. But we're more able to be compromised today. We accept more, or people want to believe in something or escape something so bad. It's just human behavior to
can
accept
I
these
mm-mm.
pieces of ignorance.
can
It's,
I,
it's
I
humans choosing to follow it.
can I say this? For me, this is personal. When it comes to Islam, it is personal.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I will keep on doing this. I will keep on because I've got a friend who is in jail right now. He was sentenced to 24 years because he walked away from Islam. The president of the Atheist Association in Nigeria, a friend, someone I know. And what did he do? Because he realized, there was nothing to it. His family, they they had him committed to a um a mental institution. He was pumped with all sorts of drugs. It's all out there, right? Because it's a very, very prominent case. Um, and then for the simple reason, the reason I think what he did, he put a post on Facebook comparing the prophet of Islam to another prophet in Nigeria, and because Nigeria has blasphemy laws, Nigeria has the 12 states in Nigeria are governed by Sharia, but also the Nigerian constitution also has blasphemy laws. You cannot blaspheme against the Christian God and the Muslim God in Nigeria.
It's
Fortunately,
pathetic.
the Christians don't really bother with it, but the Muslims, they so he was tried under um Nigeria's blasphemy laws. If he was tried under the what you call it, if he was tried under the Sharia law, he would no longer be with us, right? So for me, this is personal. This isn't something to joke about, right? You see this conversation we're having about Islam. If we were in Nigeria right now, this is blasphemy.
And I
So
think it's important to have this conversation because we don't know this shit. We don't know that, you know?
I can again. I agree and understand how all this can be personal, how all it can mean so much, because look at the effect of religions, period, belief systems across the world. Like, look how many people, there's hundreds of thousands, millions and millions, if billions of lives that have been lost because of people's beliefs and wanting to believe in these things. But that doesn't take away that doesn't take away from the pain or anything that we're talking about. It's not even a joking matter. It's just basically understanding that it still comes down to people having the choice and choosing to align themselves with these and to believe in and to tolerate or to accept or to be led by this way, whether it and still it's just the reality of it, that it still comes down to human behavior, human acceptance, and all that carries over in. It's like it carries over into, we go searching for faith. This faith comes searching for us. So basically
Mm.
I'm asking, do God come looking for us, or do we go looking for God as humans?
Both, both. Because listen, Jehovah's Witnesses, Hebrew Israelites,
Those are
etc.,
those
etc.,
are men.
etc.
Those are still actions of men being led by men, or women. When I say men, I'm speaking in general of men and women. But
Hmm.
being led, these are still actions all by humans, right? The whole searching for it is still like, we don't understand, we don't know, we need something to believe in. We pick these leaders. These leaders go out and these we create these things, stories, whether they're true or not. We help create, perpetuate, tell. We change to make it grander. We do all these different things. There are many instances in the Bible of some heinous, crazy ass stuff happening that Christians overlook every day when they go read their scripture, their word, of some old heinous, wild ass stuff happening. So it still all comes down to like human behavior. Some people get forced into a religion because they just grow up, or we get indoctrined into it. Like, we get conditioned to go into it. Like, most of us who were Christians at first is because our parents or our
Made
grandparents.
us. Yes, they made us go to
Yes.
church. Yeah,
So we get pushed into these things, and for in slavery, some people were forced into it, whatever the case.
they all was.
They all was, and some of them actually, believe it or not, believed in. They were being taught some form of Christianity or whatever case back then too. There were missionaries going on back in them places too and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
the missionaries came first,
yeah.
and then the softener,
So
and
just
then they
this
came.
human
Yeah,
history, again, human history will tell you what you need to know to understand, to break this down. The way we act, the way we treat each other, the way we still treat each other, the way we go about religion around, the way we go about politics, the way we intertwine the two. In some of these countries, like you're talking about, like, there is no difference. Us in America, we get spoiled because there feels to be some sort of difference between church and state. In other places, like you're talking about, they don't have that, and then they just got
Mm.
to they just have to accept it, or they live by it because they're pushing. They don't have a choice, or this is just what they know. But that's
I
what
mean,
religion.
you guys don't have complete separation of church and state.
No,
no,
we
that's
It's
why
don't.
he said. That's why he said. That's
on
pretty much that.
paper, on
Yeah,
paper,
Yeah, he
but
said. Yes, on paper.
mm-mm, mm-mm. And I just want to ask you, Jay, then, how would you have these conversations had? I mean, if you were to, uh, okay, I think before I ask that question, let me say this: for a lot of us who are no longer religious,
hmm
conversations like this helped us out.
right.
Conversations like this, hearing something, seeing a meme. I love Reggie's TikTok page. I love Reggie doesn't say anything, but if you go through Reggie's TikTok page from start to finish, go through all those memes, and you're a religious person, you will hate your God by the time you're done. Because
There you go.
not many words said, but these memes are hard
There
hitting.
you go.
They And I love the selection of music as well. The music. Do you find music that that just fits with the
Right,
post?
right. He's
And
talented at
so
what he does.
and so if we didn't have these sorts of conversations, if we didn't have pages like godless Reggies, people like Nia, people like myself, right? How then will people? How then will people find out? How then will people be? How then will they have access to the thing called the truth? The truth.
So these conversations are needed, just like the other conversations are needed. The problem, not saying that this is a problem. The responsible thing to do is when we go about these things, we have these real, if they're real conversations and they're honest conversations. You have to, again, that's why I always bring out the human aspect in it, because using that helps us to prove and disprove the points and facts and the topics we talk about. If we just keep focusing on the spiritual part, or just mocking or making fun of the religious part, but not putting context or not bringing a whole story to the point, then allows us. That's where most religions fall apart, because they're so up here that they don't care if you can break it down or if you can find proof of evidence, because they're always going to just rely on good old number big F word, faith.
Or the
So,
Bible said.
or
The
the
Bible
Bible
said.
says, right? So
No, the
when you
Quran said.
yeah, what the Quran said, whatever they choose to pick. So when you have those conversations of being able to say like, "Yo, what you say to you?"
Hold on.
They don't even know what it says.
Man, a lot of
They
people
don't
don't.
They
be
sure don't.
knowing.
So,
All they know is what the man gets up at the pulpit and tells them what it says. That's what
Exactly.
they know. I'm different.
Exactly.
I'm be honest with you. I know what it says.
so
I ain't
these
gonna let
Mm,
nobody tell me what it says. I know what it
mm-hmm,
says. I know what it says, and it's still trash.
right. So
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
these conversations you have can do many things. Some
Right.
it can pull people away from it. It can pull people away from the church as an organization, a political thing, as a religion. And some people, it can help them if they still want to believe in God. It can help them go about finding their relationship with God in a better way by taking away the influence of said church, the influence of thinking that the bigger your church is, the closer you're going to get to God, or the bigger, when it comes down to it, if you're a religious person, it's about your relationship. It's about your personal, not you and your wife's, not your kids, your relationship. If you take, I'm just speaking of taking what's in the Bible or what it says. So that allows people when they hear certain things to give them. So what you guys are doing is great. It's just like approaching it so much more into the informative and looking at the macro and not just the micro. The micro is just looking at it, is just understanding, saying, yo, Muhammad said this, and this. When compared to going back and look like, yo, in this area, in this era, this is how they were. And this carried over. And if
But it
this
was some
carried over,
bullshit though. Either way, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's some bullshit. But then when you say that, then it goes to sit there and say that, yo, is this your prophet? When he was nothing more than a puppet of spitting,
Right.
not diatribes, but repeating the ignorance and fallacies and behavior of what was going on. He was not a messenger from God. If he's clearly acting like this and falling into traps like the rest of society at that time was acting like, you give
Mm-hmm.
more context and more understanding of not just that moment, but what was going on around that moment. So all I'm saying is when you have these discussions, macro, not micro, because
Mm-hmm.
micro can be put apart with other little small different arguments compared to the fact when I talked about, when I looked at things, when we talked about Jesus and Jewish and everything else, that's from a macro standpoint, the big picture, because we'll get lost in all the politics. And he said this in this book, and he said this in this book, and their faith, and the Jewish want to deny it, and everything. We'll get lost. Was he or was he not this? Was he or not this? He was the first one, whatever case, and everybody that follows him, whatever case was this. Yes. Now all the other stuff you want to argue about, have fun with it. This was the fact. This what was going on in that era and time. I ain't got time for all the little BS stuff y'all want. Not y'all personally, but saying to people, I ain't got time
Give it
for.
2 months. Give it
Yeah,
2 months. Listen, I'm gonna tell you like this. Give it 2 months. Come on here every time I have a show, and I promise you, you're gonna say it's different. Watch.
Yes.
I'm just.
And
I've been having.
I
I'm
will I will I
having with
will
my.
I will say
Mhm.
I will say
It's completely different.
myself, compared to when I first started speaking about this, yeah, I've come a long way. I
I used to
have
think
come a
that.
long way. So there's no school to go and learn where to have these conversations.
You
There's
search for
nowhere
anyone to back up
where
the theories you want.
there's nowhere. I mean, there's nowhere where we go and learn how to um talk about Islam, right?
Hmm.
We have to actively be looking, okay, this is how to have these conversations. And in speaking to you now, Jay, I'm going to take on board what you have said, right? I'm
Mhm.
going to take on board, and then we work on that. And Reggie, as we go along having these conversations, just take that on board, not just the micro but also the macro, right? Everything all comes together as one. But it doesn't change the fact that God is just a figment of people's imaginations. That guy doesn't
That's
exist.
a motherfucking fact. Afro, tell them what you got going on.
How to break it down and understand why. It's not just understanding this is, but why. Why is Donald like? If when I talk politics, I have to go understand why is it so easy for
Why?
people to follow him. When
Hmm.
you understand that, it's a lot easier to have those conversations with his followers and break them down to get them to understand. Because now you understand the bigger picture of it all and why it's so easy for them to believe in the lies. Why it's so
Because
easy for
they
them to follow it.
because
Why
they
it's so
watch
easy for
wrestling.
people to go to God. Like just like you said, the more you looked into it when you started on your journey, and Reggie talking about it a couple months, how you delve deeper in your distaste, not distaste, but your feeling on it and everything was is the same. That exact same thing happens for people who quote unquote go searching for God, and the more they consume proving that theory or leaning into that, the more they become believers. It can happen both ways. So
Afro,
Yeah, true, true,
Afro, I know you got to
true.
go soon. Don't you guys another podcast to do
Yes,
here
I
like in a
do. I
second?
do.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
thank
yes.
you, Afro. Thank you, Tia.
Tell,
Thank you, Reggie. I'm sorry.
tell them.
No, this
No,
this
no, no.
has been this
I
has
want to
been
let her
really
go.
good. This has
I
been
want.
this has been really good.
I
And
love, I
yeah,
love
but
it.
Reggie, what's up with the born again atheist?
Oh, I
I
know you love
mean,
that.
is kid Reggie's a born again atheist?
Tell them
Born
everything
again
that you got
atheist.
going on. Tell them what you got going on, Afro.
So I've got an interview with someone. Her name's Ria. She is going to share her deconstruction story, her deconversion story, her journey from being a Christian to now being non-religious. I'm not sure if she's an atheist. I don't know if she describes herself as an atheist, but she's actively on TikTok speaking about the subject. So I love the conversion stories. I love hearing people's journeys, how they made it out, and what was it that started it off, and how did they go from A to B and C. So yes, that's what I'm going to be doing in 10 minutes,
Where can
less than 10 minutes.
where can people find you at?
The Afro Atheist on YouTube.
Okay. Anywhere else?
On TikTok, but I just got my account banned. So hopefully I've appealed it. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Please follow her. I do a lot of work with her. Well, lately I have been doing a lot of podcasts. Definitely follow her. Tia, what you got going on? You on mute?
I just tried to find Tia on YouTube and I don't see her.
It says, what is it? Is it at Tia Don J one? What
Yeah,
is it, Reg?
Tia
Yep. I'm
Don
gonna
J
post it again.
one.
Yes, definitely
There it
follow
is.
her. She
Tia,
does
Tia
dope. She
Don
does
J
dope work
one.
too. Tell them what you do. Tia, tell them what you do.
She muted herself again.
I can't talk right now. Music way too loud.
Okay. Listen, I have done
I'm
an
out, y'all.
interview. I've done an interview with Tia before. She does a lot of good podcasts. Definitely follow her at Tia Don
Got a
Yeah,
J
dope
I,
one.
one
I,
coming
I
out
found
tomorrow,
her.
y'all. Good
I found
podcast
her.
coming out tomorrow.
I
Yes,
found
definitely
her.
follow her. What you got going on, Jay?
Man, y'all can find me at on YouTube, Truth Entertainment Films. You search that. We do everything from podcasts to
I already got you, Jay.
I appreciate you. Alpha Eight, this is dope meeting
What's
with Tia.
your channel, Jay?
On YouTube is Truth ENT Films.
Truth ENT Films.
Mhm. and we do a lot of stuff right
Found
now.
you.
I'm working on. I
Yes, I
got to
found you.
shout out the Madam President and the Major. It's a Haitian docudrama we are working on right now. Working on it with the former president of Haiti as well as Wyclef Jean and the Major General Solomon, who saved and stopped the coup that helped bring the first democratic elections to Haiti. So it's a dope project. Very excited about it. Definitely excited to be working with Wyclef. You can also find me on by my name on Facebook, Jamar Harris. TikTok, you can find TikTok. We're on there, but we're under AAA Sports. So don't forget every Wednesday, AAA Sports, 8 p.m. Me and Reggie, where Reggie's on there, and he's just as passionate on sports as he is about this. And I support my brother, man. We don't. I'm a firm believer in is like, yo, the best way to come to a truth is working with people who you don't always agree with, but you find interesting, and those who search for knowledge that helps everybody become better. So I definitely Afro Atheist. I definitely want to chop it up with you more. Until we long overdue to collab on something. So I'm always down, man. And also, me and Reggie do Product of the '80s. Check us out, Product of the '80s. You can find that on Truth Entertainment Films on YouTube also. So other than that, man, thank you for having me on, Reggie.
Anytime. Hope you come back. Hope everybody
Oh,
comes back.
I'm
Thanks, Reggie.
Catch me next Sunday. I don't know the exact time yet. Depends on who I can get on here. But we're gonna be back for episode 2. Thank all y'all for coming out to Faith, Lies, and Confusion. And I'm out.